Welcome to Stuff They Didn't Teach Me in Sunday School. Did you ever know somebody that if you gave them 5 things, you knew they were going to mess up 3 of them, or told them 5 things, they were going to not understand 3 of them? Or if you gave them instructions, do this, and then this, and then this, and then this, they'd mess up the order and not get it right? I guess we all have a problem at some point. If you give me too much information all at one time, I can't sort it all out, and I can't remember all that information. We may have some of that problem at the church at Thessalonica, that maybe all the information that Paul gave them, they had a little bit of trouble sorting out some of that information. All that information about who God was, what he was doing, what he was going to do, and they miss a little bit of it. The church at Thessalonica is another one that Paul loves. Thessalonica is in Macedonia. You know some people in Macedonia. Philip, the father of Alexander the Great, those two are from Macedonia. Philippi, the town of Philippi, is named after Philip, Alexander the Great's father. And now Thessalonica is the capital, or Thessaloniki is the capital of Macedonia at that time. So it's a major city. Paul visited there on his second missionary journey, and it has a Christian congregation there. A Christian congregation first made up of Jews, but largely Gentiles. The letter is a fond letter to people that Paul loves, and does talk about them as having been an example. He talked about them in the second letter to Corinthians as having been an example of giving to the rest of the Mediterranean, to the rest of the Christian church. But if you go to chapter, to the end of 1 Thessalonians chapter 4, beginning about verse 13, it appears that there's one thing they kind of got messed up. And what they got messed up was this thing about the second coming of Christ. And apparently what they thought they heard Paul say was that Christ would come back and take everybody living with him into this new kingdom. Now, think about that. If they heard him say that, then what's the question they might have? Hey, Aunt Bertha died last week. What about Aunt Bertha? What about my mother? What about my father? They were Christians, but they're dead. And you said Christ was coming back to take all the living with them. And Paul corrects that in verse 13, chapter 4. But we would not have you ignorant, brethren, concerning those who are asleep, that you may not grieve as others do who have no hope. For since we believe that Jesus died and rose again, even so through Jesus, God will again bring with him those who have fallen asleep. So don't worry about those loved ones who've died. God is going to bring them too when Christ comes again. Verse 15, for this we declare to you by the word of the Lord, that we who are alive, who are left until the coming of the Lord, shall not precede those who have fallen asleep. For the Lord himself will descend from heaven with the cry of command, and with the archangel's call, and with the sound of the trumpet of God, and the dead in Christ will rise first. So not only will Jesus come to get you, he's going to come to get your dead relatives who are Christians too. And in fact, they're going to rise first and meet him first. Then we who are alive, who are left, shall be caught up together with them in the clouds to meet the Lord in the air, and so we shall always be with the Lord. His comforting words to these people is, you do not need to worry about your loved ones who've died and died in the faith. They are part of God's forever kingdom too. Now, we kind of take that for granted, and yet when you stand at the gravesite of a loved one, these words have powerful impact, that God will cause these bones to live and to rise and to be the person that we once knew and live forever with him and us in his heavenly kingdom. I love 1 Thessalonians. I love it because of many things, but that last section where Paul deals with the resurrection and says, no, they haven't missed it. It's still coming, and it's going to include them, is just a beautiful promise for God's people of all ages.